pilot in the U.S. Air Force and has served the state of Texas as governor for more than a decade. His home state has created more than 1 million jobs in his tenure as governor, even as America has lost jobs. Please welcome America's Jobs Governor and a candidate for the Republican nomination for President, Rick Perry.
Thank you, Joe. I want to say thanks to Georgia. I don't know where she is right now, but back in the back over there. So I can't remember whether I was in Clear Lake or Cherokee or one of the other little small towns that we went through as we were coming by, and they knew somehow or another that we were coming to Dubuque and we were going to go to man a job, and she said, "You got to get the Black Thunder." So those of you coffee drinkers just know that Black Thunder that's the choice over there. So I think it will be an eye opener. So hopefully we'll open some eyes up tonight as well. And thank you all for coming out. And if you're going to be in Iowa in December, generally speaking, you got to have a real reason to be here, right? But this weather, I told them, I said, there's supposed to be 6 inches of snow out there and trudging around and what have you, and it was absolutely a magnificent day and has been for the whole week that we've been here. I think this is I think we rolled into Sioux City on Thursday and did the debate, and now this is, I think, the 19th stop that we made on a 44-city little tour of Iowa, and it's been awesome, and the people have been wonderful, and so it reminds me a lot of home. I grew up in a little place that was 16 miles from the closest place that had a post office, so it was pretty rural, and there were about 110 kids, grades 1 through 12. I think there were around 13 in my graduating class. I did graduate in the top 10 in my class. I just kind of get that out. So I was kind of, because if I ever said that, somebody would say, "How many were in your class?" But it was a very small community, and a classic in a way with what you have here in Iowa in your small communities. And the school was the center of that little community. And then there was a Methodist church and a Baptist church, your choice, kind of across the Farm to Market Road. And that was the entire community. And then when I wasn't showing club calves and 4-H, I was involved in Boy Scouts, working towards getting my Eagle Scout. And my dream in life was to be a veterinarian. I'd always wanted to go to school at Texas A&M and to be a veterinarian. And then I got introduced to organic chemistry. And I had a little Y in my life. At that particular point in time, they explained to me I really didn't want to be a veterinarian, that I had another avenue in life to go down, and the Vietnam War was still going on, and I volunteered to fly in the United States Air Force and took a contract. And that was when a rather interesting part of my life occurred, because having grown up where I grew up and having the limited resources from the standpoint of being able to travel, I don't think I left the state of Texas but just a time or two, and one of those was at the National Jamboree for Boy Scouts. We went to Philadelphia and New York and Washington, D.C. And actually 1964 is when it was, the World's Fair was going on. So I got a little glimpse that there was quite a big and interesting world out there outside of the little tiny place in Texas that I live. And as a pilot in the Air Force, I had the great privilege of traveling a substantial amount. And I actually lived in England for a while. We were a rotational squadron. I was a TAC airlifter, flew C-130s, and I don't know whether you're going to be a paratrooper when you get out, but if you do, you'll spend some time in the back of Josh is a West Pointer, and one of your to tell him thanks for his service. But that was. I traveled all over the European theater and down in through northern Africa and the Middle East and Asia. I was in Saudi Arabia in 1975 as they were transitioning from this very tribal type of a country to untold wealth, and the country was just transitioning over. And so I started seeing how people were impacted by different governments and how the people lived, and I started making those connections between how government affects the people. And I know I was being completely subjective with this, but I was seeing the way people lived, and whether I perceived them to be happy or whether I perceived them to be content, and all of these various and sundry countries and different types of governments, monarchies to the theocracies at the Vatican, and all of these different types of governments that literally into places that had dictatorships. We would fly through a corridor into Berlin, and to think about the people who were behind the Iron Curtain, and the lack of freedoms that they have, and that's when it really dawned on me, because I'd taken it for granted, as so many people do, the freedoms that we have, this incredible country that we live in, and the men and women who have sacrificed for us. And as I've matured as a man, and as I've matured as a public servant in my case, thinking about where we are today, and it was never my purpose to be the President of the United States. It's always been my purpose in life to serve my country. My dad was a B-17 tail gunner, 1944, flying out of East Anglia, 35 missions over Nazi-held Germany. And he was the fourth generation of Perrys who had been tenant farmers out there, and he just wanted to serve his country, come home, and live in peace, farm that little piece of land out in Paint Creek. But he always instilled in me the importance of serving your country, your community, your state. And the reason I'm standing before you today is because I still have that great passion about serving this country. And our country's in trouble.